Hey, hello everyone. Now that we have a very clear mental model of how LLMs interact with tools and what makes up a agentic loop, let's try to build one ourselves. So as a part of this video, we will just build a very basic CLI-based chat application that will be integrated with the LLMs, where we type an input in on the CLI and it's passed over to the LLMs and we get a response back and we just put it out as an output. Later in the video, we will also try to create a modularization of the code such that it can help us build over it and add more tools in the subsequent videos. So let's go and let's build something. So we'll be using Golang. As you can see, I have created a very basic boilerplate for the Golang project. We'll be just building the first part, which is taking the user input and throwing it out as a reply. Let's do. Okay, so now that we have built the foundation layer for how to take the inputs and throw out the output, let's just try it out. So whatever we type, it should just be outputted again. Hello, okay, so this one works. Let's move on. So now what we will do is we will try to integrate it with the OpenAI SDK. In order for us to integrate with the OpenAI SDK, we will require the OpenAI API key. For now, I have kept the OpenAI API key in my environment variables, which I can just directly access from the code. So let's do that. Okay, now that we have OpenAI API key read from the environment variables, we will need to integrate it with the SDK. So we'll have to import the SDK. So we'll use the official OpenAI Golang SDK. Let's run gomod tidy. Okay, we have the latest version of OpenAI SDK available in our project. Let's try to integrate it and create a OpenAI client. Okay, we have already created an OpenAI client. Now what we need to do is every time the user inputs a message, instead of printing it out again, we will just have to pass it over to the OpenAI SDK and get a response from them. So let's do that. Okay, we have integrated the OpenAI client in our chat loop in here. As you can see, what we have done is we have called the chat completion API and we have sent the message as a user message. So we have two kinds of message. One is user message and one is a system message. We will talk about system message in a while. But for now, we'll just send the user message in the chat completion API. And whatever response we get, we take the first choice of the response and print out the message content. So let's try to run it. We just say hi to the LLM. Okay, we get an immediate response. Let's ask the LLM to tell us a joke. Nice. The AI response is giving us a good joke. Let's try to ask for another joke. We'll ask the AI agent to tell us a joke about AI agents. Now we spoke about user messages and system messages. So now what happens is, if you see, we have asked for a joke and then we asked for another one. Let's try to ask and see if the agent remembers our first joke. So as you can see, the agent does not really have the record of our previous conversation. So what does this mean? It means that the OpenAI APIs are stateless. They don't hold a state. So we have to manage the historical conversation state on our side and send it back to the API every time, or else the chat API will never remember what we spoke about and it will start losing the context. So let's try to build a history. So if you see here, when we send the messages, we have an array of messages. It's not a single message. We can actually send multiple messages here. And currently what we are sending is a user message. But then there is another called system message. So let's try to build one. So let's just create a conversation history. Okay, so we have created a conversation history that we just store in memory right now. So what happens is every time we type a message, we add it as a user message. And then whatever chat response we get, we add it as a system message. So we directly use a function called toParam that the SDK provides. Let's see what toParam does. If you see, toParam actually converts it into to assistant message. So what we have been using is a user message, and what they have been doing is they give a assistant message. So there are two types of messages right now: user message and assistant message. As we go forward around toolings, there are different type of messages that we will encounter, which tells the LLM what this message holds in context for, whether it was a response that the bot gave, whether it was a question that the user asked, whether it was a tool call and a tool response, but we'll talk about them later in the subsequent videos. So now let's try to run this. Let's ask the same question. Hi, can you tell me a joke? Nice. Can you tell me a joke about AI agents? Nice. Okay, now let's ask for about the first joke again. If you see, it's the same joke. Why did the computers go to the doctor? Because it had a virus. Yeah. So now that we have built the conversation history, what it means is every time we chat with the LLM, we send back the conversation history so that the API understands that this was the context that we have been talking about, and it can answer in the historical context as well. So it knows what was the historical conversation that we already had. Now this looks pretty good. Like we are at a good state. But as you look into the code itself does not look very scalable. It's a single function. Everything is written inside a single function. It's very hard to scale this code or even add more toolings to it. So let's do this. Let's try to create a modularization of this code, and let's try to break down it into a new data structure called agents. Okay. So we'll just keep the agent data structure very simple. What we will do is we will create a struct. It will have access to the OpenAI client and the get user message so that this agent itself does not care like how is the user input actually coming in. It just calls this function. And then we will have another function called run, which will be the agentic loop that we will run. Let's also create a constructor quickly. Okay, we have the constructor ready. So in order for us to write our agentic loop, let's just move this entire loop along with the conversation to this function. Let's point it to the right things. Okay, as you can see, the code works out of the box when we move it to a new function, and then let's just return a nil from here. Okay, let's create our new agent. Okay, let's try to run it. Hi, can you tell me a joke? Can you tell me a joke about AI agents? Can you tell me the first joke again? I forgot. Okay, perfect. We have our code running as expected. So yeah, that's it for the video today. The code that we wrote, I'll be uploading it to my GitHub and I'll be adding the link to the video description. Please feel free to go through the code and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.